Next partner that we're going to be introducing today is Shane Gillis from 45 Drives. Shane, how are you?
David, how you doing? Good, sir. Thanks for having me on today.
Fantastic. Absolutely. It would not be an event. It would not be an event without our partners at 45 Drives present. It just wouldn't be. So Shane, what I'll do is I'll hand it over to you, and then we'll catch up, say maybe 5 or 10 minutes before you're done, and then we'll see if we have some questions from our audience.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, everyone, it's nice to meet you all out there in the internet. My name is Shane Gillis, the account manager for Ontario, and David, thanks again for the opportunity to talk today about 45 Drives. So I'm very happy to be here at the Solutions 2024 event for Connex and get to know everyone a bit better. So for today's agenda, we're going to learn a little bit more about the team here at 45 Drives, what we provide, as well as introduce you all to SnapShield, which is our ransomware activated fuse. So let's go ahead and just ease right on into the first section, a little bit more about us. So 45 Drives primarily is an open source storage solution company. We deliver enterprise grade storage solutions, leveraging the power of Linux and open source NASs. So we are both the single point of accountability as well as your dedicated resource, whether that be for hardware support or software support. And this goes even outside of that, right? I mean, outside of our deployments, this could be third-party consultation on an existing Linux infrastructure that you have that you'd like to do more fine-tuning on. By no means is it drawn in a line there. Just kind of to know a bit more about the history, we've been around for over 20 years with 400 employees and ever growing. We've worked with a multitude of organizations, anywhere from the home user all the way up to some of the 3-letter, 4-letter organizations you see listed here. By no means is this list exhaustive. We've helped tons of people in different verticals achieve their storage goals and ultimately make their lives easier. Pictured here, if you're at all familiar with some of our tech tip videos, is Rob McQueen, our service manager, and Brett Kelly, our R&D lead at a cluster. So what do we provide? I mean, 45 Drives may sound pretty upfront on what we provide there, but we do provide single servers powered by ZFS, cluster solutions powered by Ceph, as well as services both for software and ransomware detection. So what are the overall benefits here for a 45 Drive server? First of all, we're based in the east coast of Canada, so it's always great to have that connection here. Affordable large-scale storage for a centralized data vault. This includes remote configuration from us to get you to a production-ready state, as well as with our partners at Connex, as well as RAID-level redundancy in these servers. So the ability to lose a drive without any worry of data loss. This also includes integration into your existing network infrastructure, your existing folder structures, user permissions, etc. Right? Make it easy for you guys. And we do have the ability to slot these units with self-encrypting drives. So if you do want to have that next level, next step, let's say at the drive level outside of fault tolerance, that's something we provide here as well. So our flagship offering here is our Storinator storage server. It is a 4U chassis you can see here on the left-hand side. Pictured is our S45, so 45 hard drives populated. And typically what we see for our hard drive dedicated offering is a range of general purpose file server, your backup, 1080p editing, that kind of thing. And these come in a large range of sizes. So we have a 4 8-bay, 15, 30, 45, and 60. So anywhere from 10 terabytes all the way up to the at the 1.3 petabytes. So quite a bit we can squeeze into this box, quite a bit indeed. On the right-hand side, we have our Storinator hybrid offering. This is our new F8X design. So F8 referring to 8 SSDs per row, and the X referring to the 12 hard drives per row. So in this picture, we have our F8X3. So that would be a total of 36 hard drives and 24 SSDs. Now, use cases for this are a little bit different than the original Storinator there. This is a mix of high I/O as well as long-term retention and streaming for general purpose file storage. So this could be like your post-production shop that's doing some 4K work, but they still want to have that long-term retention on files. This could be a backup use case that maybe want to have more snappy access to certain files, but still want to have that long-term retention as well. even though we have that in mind, this is still a petabyte potential box with 250 terabytes worth of SSD storage. So still a great degree of space you can have in a single 4U chassis. I should mention also that all of our design is direct wire backplane architecture. There are no multiplexers in these boxes. So this is direct one-to-one connection to the card to the backplane, ensuring you get big, strong, fast storage. Speaking too fast, we move into our flash offerings. On our left-hand side, we have our dedicated flash appliance, our Stornado, which is our SATA SSD solution. This primarily is dealt for 4K editing, VM workloads, that kind of style of use case. It is 2U and front-loaded with a total of 32 bays, so fairly rack U efficient, as well as scaling up to 250 terabytes of storage. On the right-hand side, we have our new Stornado NVMe, which maybe someone heard me talking about it and cut off the stream here prematurely. I doubt that, but it is coming out here end of month into early next month. It is a dedicated U.3 backplane. So this will actually be backwards compatible with U.1 as well as SATA SSD. So you can mix lightning fast and fast storage should that be your preference. But this is really geared more towards, the AI workloads, machine learning, e-commerce calculations, sort of those use cases. Again, here with this 32 front-loaded bay, you do have the flexibility to scale up to 250 terabytes. There are U.3 drives that go beyond that as well. So as far as scalability is concerned, certainly a lot of room for you there. And one of the traditional challenges on open source sort of software has been, your single point of accountability. Who owns this? Who supports this? And CLI for some is quite flexible, but even for myself, from a Windows NOS background, it's been a challenge. So what we've done is we've taken the Cockpit project, which is an open source storage project, and built on top of that, and we've constructed Houston UI. The running joke here is Houston, we have a solution. As you can see here on the screen, we have our 45Drives disks module. It's one of our more popular modules here, and it allows us to see a live and interactive view of our server. So this here specifically listed is an XL60 hybrid. So as you can see, we have both our SSDs and our hard drives here. And this green humming aura we see over the hard drives shows us that this array is in a healthy state. So we don't have to worry about this, along with an array of other information, our drive slot aliasing, temperature, serial number, that kind of thing. Should one of these drives fail, one of these, SSDs or HDDs will hum orange. Send us an automatic email, Slack, text, or pager, if you can believe it. We can do that as well, and let us know that we have to RMA one of these drives. So, and if you purchase the drives through 45Drives, we handle this advanced RMA process for you. So talking about all these amazing single servers, we carry this open source technology. We take some steps here into Ceph. So what is Ceph? Like any other cluster software, ties together servers into a single consolidated namespace. Specifically, again, for us, clustering is through Ceph. And kind of the core tenets here for Ceph mainly are it's high availability. So looking here at the example, we have 4 servers. What this means is that we can actually lose an entire server without any impact to client I/O, data integrity, or user access. So essentially, a meteor could fall from the sky, kill one of these here servers, and our clients will never know the difference. So that bulletproof redundancy is certainly something that places Ceph high up in that list. The other thing to consider here is migration and scalability. So oftentimes in traditional infrastructures, we talk about our A through Y drive share. We have this running line and curation of museum servers we've taken care of the last 5 to 10 years. And consolidation, organization, and overall administration of these servers can be quite challenging just through the sheer number of volumes. What Ceph will do at an expansion point is expand a drive at a time. And then once that server is full, you simply put in a new node and you've got your Z drive, the last ever share you're going to manage. So really takes away some of that headache for both administration as well as expansion. Now, leveraging this high availability, we also have the opportunity to get rid of the pain of scheduled downtime. Because we can lose an entire server, it also means we can flag servers out of the cluster for maintenance. So if we want to do, I don't know, it's been 5 years, let's say, our computer hardware, server hardware in this case, is getting a little long in the tooth. We want to upgrade the RAM, the CPU, etc. We would simply flag one of these nodes out, do the upgrade process on the node, put it back into the cluster, and do a rolling upgrade throughout the cluster. And thanks again to that high availability, this is zero time. This is no IT staff during the middle of the week or after hours having to waste time. It takes away that pain. And finally, when we talk about Ceph, we talk about how flexible it is. So use cases for Ceph are anywhere from your standard business file server to S3 compatible storage or block storage. So really versatile in this way. And that brings us towards SnapShield. So SnapShield is something we developed here at 45 Drives. It is an agentless software that sits on top of Rocky Linux and Ubuntu, and is designed right now for SMB file use cases. So your standard business file server use case. It is a detection tool against ransomware. You may see this and think it's kind of silly, but obviously ransomware has been something that has proven to be quite challenging over the years. We've seen, post-production houses, retailers, mom and pop shops, anyone really in between been hit by ransomware, and it's become a growing concern and something we've, even from a storage platform company, have started to look further into. So we talk about the risks. What could you lose here? And our founder, Doug Milburn, is famous for saying during the development of SnapShield, there's two things you can't lose in your organization. That's your people and your data. And especially when we talk about your data, if you lose 2 weeks of data, right, you've lost man hours, you've lost customer data, you've lost a lot of things that really jeopardize your business and jeopardize your mental health, let's say. So this is kind of personal for us, and the reason this is personal for us is, lo and behold, our 45 Drives manufacturing arm was actually hit with ransomware in early 2010. And as the story goes, we had let go of someone here, and our HR manager was covering their inbox. We wanted to obviously make sure we put our customers number one. And in one of these emails was a voicemail attachment. Now, honestly, back in 2010, voicemail attachments weren't as common. But again, we were trying to put our customer number one, get back to them as soon as possible. So what did they do? They went in, they double clicked that attachment, and nothing happened. Or so that's what it seemed. What in reality, what had happened is this crypto lock had spread across our file system, started locking down live data, finance data, HR data, everything. And it came to a point where, we were asked to pay a ransom, and the choice was, do you get rid of all these files and this customer data, or do you pay? And unfortunately, that time we paid. It was 2 Bitcoin back then in 2010, which by today's standards might seem a little scarier, but at the same time, it was a position that obviously no one wants to be in. And our failure scenario was pretty typical, right? Something you'd see out in the field or hear about. Our status quo protection had broken down. Ransomware had infected our file set, and we have what's called the gopher effect. One of our sales reps stood up and said, "Hey, I can't access this file." And then our IT staff said, "Okay, we're going to put this on our to-do list and look into it." And then HR stands up and they say, "Well, I can't access this file." And suddenly this gopher effect starts popping more up and more and more. And so that IT rep is then faced with a difficult decision. That decision being, A, do I shut down the entire network, lose thousands of dollars in time, customer time loss, work on, or do I, B, allow this to continue at the risk of potentially losing our entire file set? And this really became a no-win scenario, and that really bugs us here at 45 Drives. Our key mission here is to make our customers the hero of their organization. And in that spirit, we thought about, well, what can we do, right? How can we take this and solve this problem? So we took what was kind of the standard IT infrastructure, right? You've got your workstations, your data vault server or some form of server, and you have your access to the internet as well as a switch. And we said, what kind of risk and mitigations do we already have in place? How many layers of security do we have? So we talk again about that disk failure and RAID, the ability to lose drives. We have our protection from data corruption, maybe from bit rot scrubbing, backups. We have our snapshot policy in place to protect us from accidental deletion or intentional deletion. And then we talked about, what kind of endpoint protection and backups. Is that enough, really, right? And so here's that picture, that breakdown of what the status quo looks like. So we've got our firewall implemented here. We can lock down some ports, make sure that there's not any nefarious traffic coming into this network. We've got our monitoring and endpoint protection again to make sure that if we see any kind of packets being sniffed or any nefarious activity coming outside the network, we catch that. And we even have a secondary copy of this server, a whole new mirrored copy. That way, if any of our data is compromised, we can go ahead and back that up. But at the end of the day, there's still a fundamental weakness in this entire setup. All these layers of security, and unfortunately, that's people, right? Social attacks, social engineering attacks, emails come in, and the consequences of this are huge. I mean, gone are the days of the Amazon email that comes in that says, "Hey, your tracking is here. You need to pay this at, pay me more in Bitcoin at gmail.com." It's evolved. It's changed since then. So. And a really good example is something here. So we've got a DocuSign email, one of two, one of which being fictitious, as nefarious, and the other true. And if I were to take my glasses off and wipe them down to take a closer look here, it's quite hard to tell, what the difference is here. And maybe, I don't know, you're an aspiring account manager and you've got a quota to meet, a goal to meet for sales on a 450 on a Friday, and you may feel inclined to click this, right? And again, once this is clicked, I mean, you're in that scenario. Once again, you're looking at your file system being locked down. You're looking at a real problem. So what it came down to then is that the status quo wasn't quite enough. Even with the combination of layers that we had, training, backup, snapshots, ransomware, evolves and changes over time. And that human element will always present a threat vector for people to take advantage of. So again, we decided that we needed another layer, something to protect us. What would that look like? It needed to be something that was fast and effective, something that could catch this nefarious activity, quarantine and lock out any sort of bad actor or file, ransomware, and we needed a robust snapshot policy. That way, we could roll back those files from 5 minutes ago, not from 2 weeks ago, because if our oldest backup is 2 weeks ago, that's not going to do us any good. And that's what brought us to SnapShield. So SnapShield, again, is a agentless server-side software. Agentless meaning that there is no requirement for you to install this across your workstations. This is installed solely on your server. 1 through 50 workstations are not required to install, and essentially that'll cut back on a lot of time for your IT team. We also pair this with hardening, so best practice root password protection, locking down ports, installation of that software, and development and tuning by our team to ensure it protects you in the best way it can, as well as that automatic popping of that fuse of the infected workstation and getting that off your network. So here we are again at our standard infrastructure. And as we can see here, we have all the great things, layers of protections we had prior to, but we've been hit with ransomware in this instance. So as we can see on the first workstation, we've been compromised. This has gone into our server, and this has also infected our data. So what do? We have SnapShield deployed here on the right-hand side, monitoring for any degree of factors. And this is a number of factors between, I should say that SnapShield actually assigns a score to this behavior. It's looking for behavior, not a signature to say, hey, this is ransomware, but a combination of things. Say we see file extensions changing at an abnormal rate. We're seeing access to certain files at an abnormal rate. A number of different factors combine to determine this behavior is nefarious. So SnapShield is watching here. And it picks up that this has happened, ransomware event has occurred, and it immediately pops the connection to our first workstation. So we've quarantined the damage. We do have some encrypted files. So what do we do next? Well, we need to send an email. We need to get in contact with our IT team with 45Drives to talk about how are we going to cleanse this, right? We've quarantined this, but now we need to talk about how we are going to actually restore the files. So we begin this process, and I should say here you should have a robust cybersecurity policy. 45Drives at the end of the day is a storage company, so as far as the measurements taken to cleanse this workstation, we would definitely recommend you have that policy. But once done, it's as simple as going into the UI for SnapShield, restoring these files with your IT team, and boom, We put that NAS, that workstation, back here into our local area network. We've turned this ransomware event into a non-event. Something I talk about often when we talk about ransomware detection and protection is, what would you rather be? Would you rather be the IT rep that sends the email and says, hey, we've been hit with ransomware. It's time for us to take down our entire network and see what our options are? Or would you rather be the IT rep that says, hey, listen, we've detected a ransomware event. We've isolated it to workstation 1. We are now going to quarantine the unit and begin the cleansing process. So we talk about SnapShield. Where can we see SnapShield out in the wild? So we do have public seminars and private seminars for SnapShield where we actually debut it in action. This is also true for webinars for both single servers and clusters. If you'd like to learn more, that's something we can offer both publicly and privately. For the ransomware portion, we have a 45Drives quarantine lab, so we're going to keep this tiger in the cage before we release it. We debut Lockbit, which is a piece of ransomware that really did quite a bit of damage back in 2022. It really picked on, grocery store outlets, manufacturers, retailers. And what we do is we let it loose in this lab, let you see from a user point of view what this ransomware event looks like, and also show you just how fast SnapShield pops that connection. Lockbit, traditionally known for encrypting over thousands of files in under a minute, we've caught it in a quarter of a second or less. Even then, when you catch it that soon, it still encrypts 26 files, 40 files, and you simply. So just again here, next steps, learning more. We can learn more one-on-one engineering calls with us in Connex, configure and deploy solutions to your location, detect and essentially deploy this to a production-ready state. If we want to talk more on SnapShield, again, we offer hardening, so best practices on root passwords, locking down ports, installation of this software, deployment of the ransomware activated fuse, testing and tuning. We actually do fire drills, show you what this will look like when it happens, so you're not surprised, and then just relaxation. Know that Saturday something goes on, or during the week someone clicks a nefarious file, the only thing you're going to hear about is hey, I can't access the server, and that's because you've been quarantined and things are safe. Roadmap for SnapShield. First and foremost, more management reporting right now outside the UI, so more detailed metrics on what that looks like, what the restore utility will provide you, data exfiltration, detection, and prevention. So rather than just watching for behavior active on the file set, looking at files at rest, seeing if we can stop zero-day attacks there. So a more active role as far as data at rest is concerned. Automation and customization. So maybe if you have a workload that actually it does something similar to what you'd see for a behavior here, lots of file changes, extension movements, that kind of thing. If you have lots as well, expansion into other protocols. So as mentioned, SnapShield currently is only for SMB file shares with Linux. There are plans to move this into S3 and NFS. And finally, SnapShield has open API applicability. So we actually are able to integrate with Darktrace right now, which is another piece of cybersecurity software. There are plans to move and integrate with other softwares as well, which is part of the advantage of being open source. So that said, I hope you guys have learned a little bit more about us from a server cluster as well as ransomware detection point of view. Apologies on any interruptions that may have happened here, but more than happy to take any questions you may have now.
Shane, that was fantastic. Thank you. That's fantastic. We do have a couple of questions actually that came through that I wanted to share with you. You've demonstrated that 45 is a fantastic, versatile platform, and to the point that customers can get servers almost in any shape and size that they want. What from when that process starts, from when a customer orders a server, or for when we order one for our customers, what kind of a turnaround time, build time are we looking at for that?
That's a great question. One of my favorite questions. From us, we are based on the east coast of Canada, so in Nova Scotia. Turnaround time on servers for Canada are about 6 to 8 business days. I have seen them turn around quite a bit quicker. 2 to 3 days for manufacturing, then 2 to 3 for shipment into the United States, about the same time frame.
Every time we've ordered one for one of our clients, it's always been ahead of the curve in the sense of ETA. So that's I can speak to that as as a trusted authority, I'd say. Um, what kind of customers is 45 Drives finding that they're using? I mean, I could certainly speak to my customers, but I think let's introduce it to a broader range. What kind of customer base is 45 Drives finding?
Yeah, it really, David, it spans kind of everywhere in the industry, anywhere from a home enthusiast all the way up to, some of the NASAs of the world. Because we are, thanks to our open source solution, I mean, really anyone can take advantage of this. And this gets away from, exuberant licensing fees. Uh,
Mhm.
so this would be, business file server, backup and post-production, and large scale data retention.
I think one of the things that you touched on, and I don't think 45 gives himself enough credit, is Houston, Houston UI. That is a piece of art. I think what you guys have done with Houston, and it's an incredible addition uh, to the 45 Drive platform, and really provides that insight, as you mentioned, because you touched on the difference in challenges some people might have around CLI, right? That's Linux-based users. That's all they used to use. Um,
Yeah.
Probably the last question people are thinking about is around support. Where is that? You're running open source. You're building servers by design, by demand. What kind of support can you wrap around that?
Absolutely. So we kind of have three tiers of support. First and foremost, we do remotely configure and stand up these solutions to a production-ready state. We offer ongoing application and hardware support, as well as 24/7 emergency services. So for those who don't want to get up a Saturday morning on Christmas Eve or federal holiday, that's certainly available to you as well. We have options both for an a la carte model, pay-as-you-go with an hourly rate, and we do have formalized support plans for those who it's easier perhaps to buy upfront once a year, fiscal, that kind of thing.
Fantastic. I think, Shane, another amazing presentation. I cannot thank you enough for your time, and for everybody at 45 Drives. I hope, I hope that people do get the chance to actually come out and see what an incredible facility 45 Drives has in Sydney. When I got the tour out there, I was absolutely blown away. The main building is outstanding, and all the different facilities that you have for production is absolutely incredible. People don't realize the magnitude of skill and diversity that you guys can do, from a wonderful little East Coast in Canada. So always hats off to 45 Drives.